Can you imagine waking up one day, after 15 years of marriage, and realizing the person sleeping next to you was a complete stranger? That's exactly what happened to me, Marcus. And let me tell you, the betrayal? That was just the beginning of a nightmare I never saw coming. I'm 42, and I've built 3 successful auto shops from the ground up. I grew up dirt poor, but my hands and my brain got me out of that life. Linda, my wife, was supposed to be my partner through everything, 15 years of thick and thin. Or so I believed. Last October, she told me she was going to her sister Emma's for their usual wine night. Nothing weird, they did it monthly. She looked extra nice, I remember, but I didn't think much of it. She drives like my grandmother, so when I got a call 3 hours later, telling me she'd been pulled over for speeding on Route 92, my world started to crack. I found myself following a cop car, my stomach churning. Officer Jake Thompson ran her license, and I watched his face change from bored to serious to something that looked like pity when he glanced at me. He walked over, leaned in, and said quietly, "Sir, don't go home tonight. Get somewhere safe." My blood went absolutely cold. What? What? I managed to whisper. He pressed a folded paper into my hand. "I can't explain now, but that woman isn't who you think she is. Neither is the man at your house right now." He handed Linda her license back with a professional smile, but I caught the pure disgust in his eyes. Back in my truck, Linda was chattering about the weird cop asking strange questions, completely oblivious. I suggested dinner first, desperate to buy time. In the restaurant bathroom, my hands shaking, I unfolded the paper. "Your wife has been with Danny Rodriguez for 8 months. Tonight he's in your house going through your safe." She gave him the combination. "There's much more. She's been planning this for years. Sorry, I can't do more. A friend who remembers when you helped my family. Danny Rodriguez." The name hit me like a physical blow. He'd worked at my first shop 5 years back. A charming guy I'd fired for theft. Guess he held a grudge. But Linda? 15 years. Surviving my dad's stroke, her mom's cancer. All those struggles that should have brought us closer. All a lie? I went back to the table, my face a mask of stone. Linda was texting, her phone angled away from me. Something I'd never noticed before. "Everything okay, honey?" she asked, not even looking up. "Perfect," I replied. For the first time in our marriage, I meant the exact opposite. The drive to Emma's was pure torture. Linda kept checking her phone, and I started cataloging every single lie. Late work nights. Weekend trips to see college friends I'd never met. My life's foundation wasn't just cracking, it had never even existed. At Emma's, I claimed a work emergency. Linda's relief was almost comical. She kissed me goodbye with lips that had probably been on Danny, and I had to clench my fists to keep from doing something stupid right there. But I didn't build an empire by acting on impulse. I learned patience from poverty and strategy from surviving. I drove downtown instead of home, checked into the Riverside Hotel with cash. Old habits die hard. From the 5th floor, I could see my house 3 miles away, glowing like a beacon of betrayal. I called my lawyer, Sam Martinez, who owed me big. Years ago, when his practice was struggling and some unsavory characters were causing trouble, I'd made those problems disappear permanently. "Sam," I said, my voice ice cold. "I need professional surveillance gear delivered to my hotel in 2 hours, plus a complete background on Danny Rodriguez, employment, criminal record, finances, everything." After some hesitation, he agreed. While I waited, I watched my house through binoculars. At 12:47 a.m., a figure left through the side door. Family-only access. Even from this distance, I recognized Danny's cocky walk. He carried a bag that looked exactly like my emergency cash stash. Minutes later, Linda texted, "Staying at Emma's tonight. She's having a rough time. Love you." I didn't respond. Sam arrived at 2:15 a.m. with the equipment and Danny's file. "Marcus, whatever you're thinking." He started. "I'm thinking of protecting what's mine." I cut him off. The legal system protects people like them. I protect people like me. Danny's file revealed a pattern: seducing married women, draining accounts, vanishing before consequences hit. He'd done it in 3 states, always staying just legal. But he'd made a fatal error choosing my wife. I spent the night planning. Danny wasn't just a thief. He was predictable. His pattern suggested he wanted complete destruction, not just robbery. He wanted power, humiliation, total conquest. That meant he'd get careless because he'd never faced real consequences. By dawn, I had a plan. I'd give Danny exactly what he wanted: complete access to my world. But like a spider's web, that access would become his trap. I called Linda. "Hi, honey. How was your emergency?" My voice was unnervingly calm. "Fine, just the Morrison contract issue." "How's Emma?" "Better. I might stay another night or two." "Of course, take care of your sister." After hanging up, I called Emma directly. The confusion in her voice said everything. She was fine. Hadn't seen Linda in weeks. Another lie, etched into my mental ledger. I went home that afternoon, walking through it like a crime scene. Everything looked normal, but my hidden study camera showed Danny at 11:23 p.m. photographing documents, copying files, pocketing cash, and backup credit cards. The most chilling moment? He held up our wedding photo, smiled like he was sharing a private joke, then placed it face down. I called my old friend Rico Martinez, who ran a security consulting firm, solving problems through unconventional channels. When Rico's daughter needed surgery insurance wouldn't cover, I'd paid without being asked. That kind of debt runs deeper than money. "Rico," I said, "I need a full team. Surveillance, counter-surveillance, asset protection. People who understand permanent solutions." "How permanent?" he asked. "I'll let you know." Within hours, my house had professional surveillance that made Sam's setup look amateur. But Rico provided something even more valuable: information. "Your boy Danny has serious debts to Russian import-export specialists. $250,000 plus daily compound interest. He needs a big score soon, or he'll have bigger problems than a cheating wife." It clicked into place. Linda wasn't just Danny's target. She was his lifeline. Rico continued. "Your wife's been moving money for months. Small amounts, different accounts, under reporting thresholds. Someone taught her money laundering." "How much?" I choked out. "Best estimate? $400,000 over the past year from your accounts." My vision went red. Money representing years of 18-hour days. Risks that paid off through blood and determination. "There's more," Rico added. "The money didn't disappear. It's been invested. Real estate in Danny's name. Offshore accounts. Business ventures that don't exist on paper. They've been building a future with your past." I wanted everything. Every account, purchase, lie they'd shared. I want to know what they eat for breakfast and dream about at night. Rico saw something in my eyes that made him glad we were allies. Then I'm going to give them exactly what they deserve. That night, lying in the bed I'd shared with Linda for 15 years, I stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, I'd implement a plan that would make their betrayal look like child's play. They thought they were stealing my life, but they were about to discover some men can't be stolen from. Only awakened. Linda texted, "Miss you. Home tomorrow night. Can't wait to see you." I typed back, "Can't wait either. We need to talk about our future." For once, I was telling the truth. I woke before dawn like a man preparing for war. Coffee, shower, home gym, workout, then reviewing surveillance footage. Linda had returned at 2:47 a.m., moving like a ghost, checking her phone constantly, even smelling my pillow to see if I'd been there. My first stop was private investigator Maria Santos, who'd saved me from a disastrous merger years ago by uncovering embezzlement. "I need complete financial profiles on these, too," I said, sliding photos across her desk. "Every account, transaction, asset, legal and illegal." She studied the photos. "Your wife. My soon-to-be ex-wife. This won't be cheap." I opened a briefcase with $50,000 cash. "How much time do you need?" 72 hours. "You have 48. Next, my accountant, Paul Chun, who managed all 3 shops. "Paul, restructure everything. Transfer shop ownership to a new corporation. Move liquid assets to accounts Linda can't access. Create paper trails showing financial struggles." Paul went pale. "Marcus, if you're divorcing, this could be asset hiding. The courts won't be involved. I'm not getting divorced. I'm getting justice." My tone stopped his questions. That afternoon, I visited each shop, ostensibly for inspections, but actually planting seeds of a larger plan. I spoke privately with key employees about loyalty, threats to the business, keeping sensitive information confidential. I'd learned loyalty can't be bought, but it can be cultivated. Every person remembered specific kindnesses, Christmas bonuses, paying for kids' surgery, promotions when others wouldn't hire them, second chances when mistakes could have cost everything. By evening, I'd assembled a network of allies who would do almost anything for the man who'd protected them. My final stop was James Rivera, whose official title was business consultant, but whose actual function was solving problems through unconventional means. We met at a private club where conversations weren't recorded. I have a situation requiring delicate handling. I began outlining the betrayal, the theft, the complete violation of everything I'd built. What's your endgame? He asked. Complete destruction. I want them to lose everything they've stolen and everything they think they own. I want them to understand what it feels like to have their life revealed as a lie. And if they fight back, my smile was cold. They're welcome to try. This isn't just about money, James observed. No, I said. It's about respect. Consequences. Teaching two people there are men who can't be stolen from, only awakened. I can have resources in place within a week. You have 3 days. I drove home to find Linda cooking dinner, humming softly, playing the devoted wife with an expertise that would be admirable if it weren't completely false. She kissed me when I entered, and I suppressed the urge to grab her throat and demand the truth. How was work? She asked with bright, false concern. Interesting. I've been thinking about expanding, maybe opening a 4th shop. Linda's fork paused. That sounds expensive. I've been looking at a place across town. Perfect location. Significant investment required. I'd need to liquidate assets. I watched her face carefully. Maybe we should discuss major financial decisions together, she said carefully. Of course, I replied. We're partners, after all. That night, as Linda slept beside me, I planned the systematic destruction of 2 people who'd mistaken Marcus Chun for just another Mark. 3 days later, Maria called at 6:47 a.m. Marcus, you need to see this. Can you be here in an hour? Her desk was covered with financial documents, painting a systematic betrayal deeper than I'd imagined. Your wife is smart, Maria said, but Danny Rodriguez is smarter and greedier. Linda's been moving your money for 14 months, but Danny's been skimming from her, too. She thinks they have $400,000 together. He actually has closer to $600,000, with $300,000 hidden from her. My jaw tightened. He's planning to disappear. Maria nodded. More than that. She produced a lease agreement. Danny signed a 2-year lease on a Costa Rica house in Linda's name, using her social security number and a forged signature. If things go south, she's liable for 24 months' rent on a place she's never seen. The pieces clicked. Danny wasn't just stealing from me. He was setting Linda up for the fall. When disappearing time came, Linda would face fraud charges while he lived comfortably on money stolen from both of us. There's more, Maria continued. Danny's been recording everything. Calls, meetings, intimate encounters. He has enough evidence to destroy Linda's reputation and implicate her while painting himself as a manipulated sufferer. I felt a cold admiration for Danny's thoroughness, if it weren't directed at destroying my life. But he'd assumed Marcus Chun was just another Mark. That afternoon, I implemented the next phase. I called Linda, asking to meet for lunch at our first date restaurant. She arrived beautiful and nervous, constantly checking her phone. I've been thinking about our future, I began, about what we want from life. What do you mean? I pulled out a folder. I think it's time for big changes. Linda went pale, opening the folder to find a Costa Rica property listing with photographs and a purchase agreement. Wait, what is this? She whispered. Our new life. I've been looking into early retirement, moving somewhere we can really be ourselves. I found this place through a business associate, Danny Rodriguez. You remember Danny, don't you? Linda's hand trembled, turning pages. I don't understand. Danny's been helping me research expatriate living, taxes, property laws, best ways to transfer assets internationally without triggering oversight. I was describing exactly what she and Danny had been doing with my money, but making it sound like my idea. Danny suggested we liquidate domestic assets and reinvest offshore. He estimates we could transfer everything within a month, moving quickly. Linda's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and went from pale to gray. Whatever Danny had texted wasn't good news. I need to go. I'm not feeling well. Of course. Take the folder, look it over. We'll discuss tonight. Linda now had to choose. Warn Danny that I somehow knew about their plan, risking exposure, or stay quiet, hoping my Costa Rica interest was coincidental. Either choice led to the same result. Danny would realize the situation was too dangerous and begin his exit strategy, meaning he'd start cutting Linda loose. My phone buzzed with a text from Rico. Package delivered. Phase 3 was ready. That evening, Linda was pacing the kitchen, the Costa Rica folder open, phone pressed to her ear. She hung up when she saw me. Everything okay? I asked. Fine, just work stuff. Her smile was strained. I looked over those documents, she said. Interesting idea, but maybe we should think about it more. Actually, I said, I was hoping we could speed things up. Danny thinks regulatory changes might make transfers more difficult. I watched micro-expressions cross her face. Fear, confusion, calculation, desperation. Maybe we should meet with Danny together so he can explain details to both of us, she suggested carefully. Great idea. How about tomorrow night? After Linda went to bed, I called Rico. Tomorrow night, Danny Rodriguez will realize he's been outplayed. I need you to ensure he has no running options. The meeting was set for 7 p.m. at Morton Steakhouse, neutral territory. I arrived early, selecting a corner booth with clear sight lines. Old habits from youth. Sitting with your back to doors could be fatal. Linda arrived first, her nervousness obvious. Constant hair smoothing, phone checking. She dressed carefully, professional but attractive, suggesting serious business while appealing to both men in her life. Danny entered exactly at 7 o'clock, showing no recognition beyond polite smiles. No indication he'd been systematically looting my life for over a year. He was good at his craft. Marcus, good to see you again, Danny said, extending his hand with perfect confidence. Linda mentioned you're interested in offshore opportunities. Very interested. I understand you. Have considerable experience with international asset management. Some. I've helped a few clients diversify holdings in favorable jurisdictions. I opened my briefcase and removed 3 folders with deliberate precision. The first contains financial records from my businesses over 18 months. Revenue, expenses, asset transfers. Danny relaxed slightly. Familiar territory. The second folder contains surveillance photographs from the past month. Danny's face didn't change, but I caught a slight tightening around his eyes. Linda made a small, whimpering sound. The third contains conversation transcripts between various parties regarding my finances, my marriage, and certain planned relocations to non-extradition territories. Profound silence. Danny's hands stopped moving toward his water glass. Linda stared at the folders like they were venomous snakes. Now, I said, my voice calm. We can discuss this like civilized people, or involve other parties. Your choice. Danny recovered first. Hunters assessed new threats quickly. Marcus, I think there's some misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. I opened the first folder, removing a bank statement. Linda, would you explain to Danny why your signature appears on this $50,000 withdrawal authorization from my business account? Linda's face crumpled. Marcus, please. Or Danny, perhaps you'd explain why you're listed as beneficiary on a life insurance policy Linda took out on me 6 months ago. That got Danny's attention. I'd saved this revelation for maximum impact. His genuine surprise told me everything. He hadn't known about the policy, meaning Linda had been planning contingencies excluding her lover. Life insurance. Danny's voice was controlled, but I caught the betrayal underneath. $2 million, with Linda as primary beneficiary and Danny Rodriguez as secondary. Interesting arrangement. Danny turned to Linda with a terrifying expression. You didn't mention insurance policies. I wanted to protect us, she whimpered. Protect us, or yourself? I watched their alliance fracture in real time. This was why I'd included the insurance information, even though discovering it was the most chilling moment of my investigation. Linda hadn't just been stealing from me. She'd been considering whether my passing might be more profitable than betrayal. There's more, I continued, opening the second folder. Danny, are you familiar with Arturo Vega? Danny's face went white. How do you? Arturo's been a business associate for years. Imagine my surprise when he mentioned someone approached him about arranging an accident for a prominent local businessman. This was a lie, but I delivered it with a casual confidence that made both believe it completely. Psychological warfare. The art of making enemies destroy themselves with guilt and paranoia. Marcus, Linda whispered. We never what? I asked. Never planned to eliminate me, or never planned to get caught. Danny stood abruptly. This conversation is over. Sit down, I said quietly. Something in my voice made Danny freeze. You haven't heard the best part yet. I opened the third folder, removing a photograph of Danny entering a hotel room, followed by another of him leaving 3 hours later with a briefcase. That's the Riverside Hotel, room 237, last Tuesday. The briefcase contains approximately $150,000 cash Linda doesn't know about. Linda turned to Danny with dawning horror. What is he talking about? Or we could discuss the Costa Rica house Danny leased in your name, Linda. The one you'll be liable for even after he disappears with money you've both stolen from me. The trap was fully sprung. Danny realized he'd been outmaneuvered. Linda realized she'd been betrayed by both men. And I sat back, watching them tear each other apart. You fool, Linda hissed at Danny. You were planning to leave me with everything. And you were planning to homicide your husband. Danny shot back. Don't pretend innocence. I smiled. Actually, you'll both have bigger problems than each other soon. I showed them my phone screen displaying a text. Package secured. Awaiting instructions. Rico Martinez has been monitoring this conversation in both your residences, financial accounts, and communications. In 10 minutes, federal agents will raid Danny's apartment and Linda's office. Another lie. But panic prevents logical thinking. What they'll find is evidence of systematic fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit homicide. They'll also find evidence Linda's been embezzling from her company to fund this operation. Linda went ashen. Financial irregularities at her accounting firm would end her career even without criminal charges. Here's what's happening. Danny, you'll transfer every stolen penny back to my accounts. All of it, including money hidden from Linda. And if I refuse, my smile was cold. Then you'll discover what happens when you steal from someone who grew up where thieves didn't live long enough to repeat mistakes. Danny's bravado cracked. You're threatening me. I'm promising you. I turned to Linda. And you'll sign divorce papers, leaving you with exactly what you brought to this marriage 15 years ago. Nothing. Marcus, please. You had 15 years to be honest. Instead, you chose to be a thief and a fraud. I stood, placing $500 on the table. This covers dinner. You have 24 hours to comply. After that, others handle the situation, and they won't be as generous. I walked away, leaving Linda and Danny to face their betrayal's wreckage. Behind me, I heard them arguing, accusations flying, two hunters turning on each other when the prey proved too dangerous. The real revenge was just beginning. Over the following weeks, Danny's desperation escalated as Rico's people maintained the fiction of a federal investigation. His assets remained frozen, his passport flagged, and his Russian creditors grew impatient. Linda signed the divorce papers without reading them, her hands shaking with exhaustion and fear. When she asked what happened now, I told her, now you learn to live with your choices' consequences. Will you press charges? I studied my ex-wife's face, seeing for the first time who she really was beneath her 15-year mask. Weak, selfish, willing to destroy anyone for what she wanted, but ultimately small. No, you're not worth the effort. Her pathetic relief showed she thought she was getting away with it. She had no idea what was coming. 2 days later, Danny Rodriguez disappeared. His apartment was abandoned, car found at the airport. Conflicting reports about whether he boarded a flight to Mexico or vanished entirely. The police investigation was perfunctory. People like Danny disappeared all the time. I felt no guilt about Danny's fate. Men who make careers destroying others' lives rarely enjoy retirement. I had simply accelerated the inevitable. 3 days after Danny's disappearance made local news, Linda relocated to Phoenix, working as a bookkeeper for a small firm. Low profile, no contact with anyone from her past. Exactly where I wanted her. 6 months later, I stood in my fourth auto shop office, watching the morning crew prepare for another day. Business had expanded faster than projected, fueled by insurance money from Danny's theft and liquidated divorce assets. I hired locally, paid well, asked no questions about backgrounds as long as people worked hard. Officer Jake Thompson's daughter needed experimental leukemia treatment insurance wouldn't cover. I handled it anonymously through medical charities. $200,000 was nothing compared to what his warning had saved me. Detective Angela Rodriguez visited once, investigating Danny's disappearance. I played the helpful businessman whose employee had stolen from him and seduced his wife. I told her Danny was a professional con artist with enemies in several states who owed dangerous people money, the kind who don't call police for debt collection. She thanked me and left, finding nothing useful, because there was nothing to find. Looking back, I realized Linda and Danny taught me something valuable about trust. The only person I can truly rely on is myself, and sometimes that's enough. I'm 43 now, financially secure, completely free of people who might betray me. I've learned to trust carefully and punish thoroughly. Lessons that will serve me well in whatever comes next. In a world full of hunters, the only way to survive is being the apex hunter. And I'm very good at surviving. During this whole ordeal, I learned things about myself I never expected. Growing up poor teaches you certain skills. How to read people. How to survive when everyone's looking out for themselves. How to make hard decisions when soft ones will get you eliminated. I thought I'd left that world behind when I built my business empire. But it turns out those instincts never really go away. They just lie dormant until someone threatens everything you've worked for. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was realizing how blind I'd been. 15 years of marriage, and I'd never seen the real Linda. She was a stranger wearing my wife's face, playing a role so perfectly that even now I question which moments were real and which were performance. The woman who held my hand during my father's funeral, who celebrated with me when we bought our first house, who said she loved me every single day. Was any of it genuine, or was it all just a long con? I think about the insurance policy a lot. $2 million. That's what my life was worth to her. Not emotionally, but financially. She'd calculated the exact dollar amount where my passing became more valuable than my continued existence. There's something chilling about that level of cold calculation from someone who shared your bed for over a decade. The business recovered faster than I expected. Turns out, when you remove parasites, healthy tissue grows back stronger. My employees were incredibly loyal once they understood what had happened. Several of them had suspected something was off about Linda's frequent visits to the shops, her questions about cash flow and business accounts. They'd kept quiet out of respect for me, but their silence had cost me dearly. I've made changes to prevent this from happening again. New security systems, compartmentalized financial access, background checks on anyone who gets close to my personal life. It sounds paranoid, but paranoia is just pattern recognition applied to human behavior. Lightning can strike twice if you keep standing in the same spot during thunderstorms. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Officer Thompson hadn't warned me that night. Would I have come home to find Danny cleaning out my safe? Would I have discovered their affair through some other means? Or would they have successfully drained my accounts and disappeared to Costa Rica, leaving me broken? The timing of that traffic stop feels like fate intervening, though I don't usually believe in such things. Rico's people kept tabs on Linda for a few more months after she moved to Phoenix. She lived in a studio apartment, took the bus to work, ate microwave dinners alone every night. Her Instagram went dark, her Facebook deleted. She became a ghost, which is fitting for someone who spent years pretending to be someone else. Eventually, I told Rico to stop monitoring her. She was no longer my problem to solve or my story to follow. The strangers who knew about my situation, Officer Thompson, Maria the PI, even Detective Rodriguez, all handled themselves professionally. But I could see the mixture of disgust and admiration in their eyes. Disgusted at what Linda and Danny had done. Admiration for how thoroughly I dismantled their scheme. It's a look I remember from my youth, when people realized I wasn't someone to be crossed lightly. What bothers me most is how close they came to succeeding. If Danny had been just slightly less greedy. If Linda had been marginally better at covering her tracks. If Officer Thompson hadn't remembered a favor from years ago. I could have been the cautionary tale instead of telling. 1. Success in revenge, like success in business, often comes down to preparation meeting opportunity. I was prepared because my past had taught me to always have contingency plans. They failed because they underestimated their target. Looking back, the signs were all there. Linda's sudden interest in international travel. Her questions about business finances disguised as wifely concern. Her new fitness routine and wardrobe updates that she claimed were just for herself. Danny's casual friendship requests on social media. His periodic check-ins about job opportunities. His knowledge of details about my business that I'd never shared with him. They thought they were being subtle, but subtlety is just another word for preparation when you're planning to destroy someone's life. The money they stole represented more than just numbers in bank accounts. It was years of my life converted into currency. 18-hour workdays, negotiations in back alleys and boardrooms. Risks that could have destroyed me if they'd gone wrong. When you grow up with nothing, every dollar feels like proof that you've earned the right to exist in decent society. Taking that money wasn't just theft. It was an attempt to reduce me back to nothing. to prove that everything I'd built was just an illusion that could be stripped away by people who thought they were smarter than me. The psychological damage was harder to calculate than the financial losses. How do you quantify the cost of discovering that your entire adult life has been based on lies? How do you price the realization that someone you trusted completely was actively working to destroy you? How do you recover from learning that the person who knew you best used that knowledge as a weapon? These are questions I'm still working through, probably will be for years to come. But there's also been unexpected growth. Removing toxic people from your life creates space for genuine relationships to flourish. My employees and I have a different dynamic now. More honest, more direct. My friendships have deepened because I've learned to value authenticity over convenience. Even my relationship with my family has improved because I'm no longer filtering everything through Linda's opinions and judgments. I sleep better now than I did during my marriage, which says something profound about the cost of living with deception, even when you don't consciously recognize it. Your subconscious knows when something isn't right, and it keeps you in a state of low-level stress that you don't realize you're carrying until it's gone. Peace of mind, it turns out, is worth more than I ever imagined. So, tell me, what would you have done in my place? Have you ever faced something like this, where your trust was completely shattered? I really want to know what you think. Drop a comment below.